Switch off.
Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So I'm finally ready to do the second half of my what I added to Goodreads in February. I'm going to try to make this quick because we're supposed to go to Olive Gardens in a little bit and I'm hungry and I want some Toscana soup. So let's get started. First one I have is America's First Daughter by Stephanie Dre and Laura Kamoie? K-A-M-O-I-E. Anyway, I heard about this from a booktuber that I'm newly subscribed to, Courtney from All Things Booked. I think she had it in a book haul. So this is basically the untold story of Thomas Jefferson's eldest daughter, Martha, Patsy, anyway, Jefferson Randolph. This is really interesting to me because I read Jefferson's Sons by Kimberly Brubaker Bradley, where we actually get I'll read the description first. From her earliest days, Patsy Jefferson knows that though her father loves his family dearly, his devotion to his country runs deeper still. As Thomas Jefferson's oldest daughter, she becomes his helpmate, protector, and constant companion in the wake of her mother's death, traveling with him when he becomes American minister to France. It is in Paris at the glittering court and among the first tumultuous days of revolution that 15-year-old Patsy learns about her father's troubling liaison with Sally Hemings, a slave girl her own age. Meanwhile, Patsy has fallen in love with her father's protege, William Short, a staunch abolitionist and ambitious diplomat. Torn between love, principles, and the bonds of family, Patsy questions whether she can choose a life as William's wife and still be a devoted daughter. So, yeah, going back to what I was saying before, I read Jefferson's Sons by Kimberly Brubaker Bradley. I heard about it from Amanda from On the Middle Shelf. And she read it and she raved about it, and I read it and I loved it. I think I read it 2 years ago. And that book was basically about Sally Hemings' children from the perspective of two of her children and another kid. But we kind of see how they feel about their father and stuff like that, like the complicated feelings. And we do actually see Patsy in the book, in that particular book. So it's kind of an interesting, book that you might want to read if you can get your hands on it. I think it's out of print, but if you can find it, I really think that book would really pair well with this one, because this is his daughter's, legitimate daughter's perspective on how she felt about her father and those complicated feelings. So I guess, Courtney, if you can get that book, maybe you'd be interested in reading that one as well. I think it's considered YA. It's Kimberly Brubaker Bradley, the one who wrote The War That Saved My Life. But it's really good. I got it on audio through my library. So hopefully you can find it on audio somewhere, because I think it's harder. According to Amanda, it's harder to find it in print. But I really see these books as being very similar. So that's why it caught my attention. Anyway, next. Shaped by the Waves by Christina Suzanne Nelson. I heard about this one from Katie from Paperbacks and Ponytails. Another Christina Suzanne Nelson. All of her books sound really good, and I bought 3 or 4 and have yet to read a single one. And yet I just bought another one. I have a problem. Okay. Growing up along the Oregon coast, Cassie George has always been fascinated by the ocean. She's used her studies in marine biology as a convenient excuse for staying away from her small hometown and avoiding the shame over her unplanned pregnancy. But when she receives a call that her aunt has suffered a stroke and has been hiding a Parkinson's diagnosis, she knows she must return. Cassie finds a mostly warm welcome from the quirky community, including her high school nemesis, Nora Milford. But Cassie is confused by the mysterious package that greets her as well, containing typed pages telling a story of an anonymous woman who seems to have ties to Cassie's own life. As she begins to read more and investigate its implications, she'll discover who she thought she was and who she wants to become, are both about to change. I'm fascinated. And I can't wait to read this. And I better read this because I already bought it. Next we have Stories That Bind Us by Susie Fink. I cannot say this name. Never mind. Also recommended by Katie from Paperbacks and Ponytails. I think, did she recommend this one or did she put in a book haul? I don't know, whatever. I heard about it from her. Betty Sweet is still recovering from the loss of her husband when she becomes the temporary guardian of a 5-year-old nephew she never knew she had. As they struggle to move forward, they build a relationship upon the foundation of storytelling and its special kind of magic. That's kind of my thing. I really enjoy, like, people acquiring children unexpectedly and kind of them having to cope with it. It's one of my favorite tropes. Next we have The Masterpiece by Francine Rivers. How did I never hear about this book? I've read a couple of Francine Rivers, and there's some that I'm not that really that interested in, like Redeeming Love. I don't know. Just never caught my attention. But I never really paid attention to this one either. I heard about it from Lou from Christian Faith and Fiction. A successful LA artist, Roman Velasco, appears to have everything he could possibly want. Money, women, fame. Only Grace Moore, his reluctant, newly hired personal assistant, knows how little he truly has. The demons of Roman's past seem to echo through the halls of his empty mansion and out across his breathtaking Topanga Canyon view. But Grace doesn't know how her boss secretly wrestles with those demons by tagging buildings as the Bird, a notorious but unidentified graffiti artist, an alter ego that could destroy his career and land him in prison. Like Roman, Grace is wrestling with ghosts and secrets of her own. After a disastrous marriage threw her life completely off course, she vowed never to let love steal her dreams again. But as she gets to know the enigmatic man behind their reputation, it's as if the jagged pieces of both of their pasts slowly begin to fit together, until something so unexpected happens that it changes the course of their relationship and both their lives forever. And it sounds like Grace is a single mom too. Interesting. Next we have A Love Discovered by Tracy Peterson. I heard about this one in Lou's new releases. This is the beginning of a series, the Heart of Cheyenne series, number 1. This is coming out on March 5th. I already pre-ordered. Invited by a friend to trek west and help establish the newly formed town of Cheyenne, Edward Vogel is prepared to leave the painful memories of his wife and son's deaths behind him. The only problem is the corrupt new railroad town wants family men who can establish law and order. So Edward approaches his friend Mary Beth with the proposition of marriage. After her father's death leaves her with no means of support, Mary Beth Kruger is in danger of having her 2-year-old half-sister taken from her. So when Edward Vogel, the widower husband of her late best friend, offers her a marriage of convenience, she has no choice but to accept. Life in Cheyenne is fraught with danger, but will this arrangement be enough to save Edward and Mary Beth from the past they attempt to escape? Or will life with each other put them and their hearts in more danger than ever? So I like this idea because, well, okay. First of all, the thing that caught my attention was a 2-year-old half-sister. I kind of am that 2-year-old half-sister. I mean, minus the dead parents. But, like, there's just this whole, like, concept that if you're an adult and you suddenly are acquired a baby sibling or something, it's perfectly fine just to kind of ditch them or whatever. Like, you know, you don't have to have a relationship because your age gap is so big. And I love books where, like, these, like, really older siblings, like, take on these half-siblings that are, like, tiny. I don't know. I think just because I am that, like, my siblings are years apart. Many years apart. Except for my brother. He's 5 years apart from me, but the rest of my siblings, I think my youngest sister was, like, 14 or 15 when I was born. And so they started having children when I was like 3 or 4. Hence why I now have 1 great nephew and 2 great nieces, because 3 of my sister's children have already had children. So I'm a great aunt before I reach 50. Anyway, my point is I love a half-sibling story. Like, really, it gets my attention. But also I like the whole marriage of convenience thing just because they're not enemies, they're friends. So, like, I don't hate the couple. I even root for them because I want this kid to stay with them. So this is like a romance that I could totally get behind. Like, really invested. And that's a rarity for me. So, sounds really good. And plus, you have the whole, like, dangers of that time in history. So, that's always fun. Anyway. Next one is Between You and Us by Kendra Browick. Never mind. What's with these names today? I also heard about this one from Lou from Christian Faith and Fiction. This is releasing on March 12th. When a grieving woman unexpectedly steps into a different version of her life, she must choose between the husband she loves and the daughter she lost in this brave, gripping novel. 3 lives, 2 outcomes, 1 impossible choice. Leona hopes enjoying a rare upscale meal with her husband, David, will help them begin learning how to live again after their shared tragedy. But when she crosses the threshold of the ridiculously romantic restaurant, she quickly realizes she doesn't belong. It's not only her thrifted dress or the menu printed in Italian, it's all the clues pointing to the fact that she's in a different version of her life. The one where she and David accepted all the strings attached to his parents' wealth and power. Instead of struggling to pay rent, she lives in a lavish home with working faucets. She's no longer teaching English to high schoolers, but attending brunch with a bunch of high society busybodies, aka her mother-in-law. Leona would put more effort into figuring out how to get home, but there's one thing stealing all her, what is with this sentence structure? Stealing all her, a precious girl with her green eyes and David's curly hair. There must be a word missing in this sentence. This does not make sense. In this outcome of her life, her daughter Vera lives. Now Leona must weigh the bitter and sweet of each world, choosing between the chance to be with Vera under the impossible expectations of her in-laws and distant husband, or the life altered by grief with the man she loves. I'd pick my kid. So I'm kind of nervous about this one, because I might judge her if she makes a choice I wouldn't make. Next is a book by an auto-buy author for me that I found out is coming out. The War Orphan by Anna Stewart. I think it's called The Midwife of Auschwitz or something, is the first one in this series. Anyway, this one is coming out on March 7th. The War Orphan. 1945. I stumble out of the gates, tightly grasping the hands of 2 smaller children. Hunger swirls my stomach, and the barren landscape swims before my eyes. I can barely believe it. We're free. We survived. But what happens now? 16-year-old Tasha Ansel turns to take one last look at the imposing place that stole her freedom and her childhood. She has no idea how she continued to live when so many others did not. For the first time in months, her heart beats with hope for her future and that of the smaller children who cling to her now. Tasha was torn from her mother's arms by an SS guard days before the gates of Auschwitz opened. Now she only has a lock of her mother's fiery hair. Desperate to be reunited, Tasha asks everyone she meets if they've seen a woman with flaming red hair. But with so many people trying to locate their loved ones in the chaotic aftermath of war, finding her feels like an impossible task. Officially an orphan, Tasha is given the chance to start a new life in the Lake District in England. She knows her mother would want her to take the opportunity, but she can't bear the thought of leaving Poland without her. Tasha must make a heartbreaking decision. Will she stay in war-ravaged Europe and cling on to the hope that the person she loves most in the world is alive, or take a long journey across the sea toward an uncertain future? Sounds really good. Okay, so then I decided to take a journey. March Mystery Madness is happening, and I kind of remembered that one of my favorite mystery authors when I was into that stuff was Mary Higgins Clark. So I kind of went down a Mary Higgins Clark rabbit hole, and I found a few that I've never read that I want to. So the first one is A Stranger is Watching. These are old. Oh, I didn't. Okay, I don't have a description for this one. I forgot. Anyway, Stranger is Watching by Mary Higgins Clark. Then I have... Okay, I didn't describe any of these? Jeez. I just wrote them down in a notes app. Interesting. I'll read the titles anyway. A Stranger is Watching by Mary Higgins Clark. I'll Walk Alone by Mary Higgins Clark. Where Are the Children by Mary Higgins Clark. And Where Are the Children Now by Mary Higgins Clark. Those ones, they actually sound like Where Are the Children and Where Are the Children Now. I think she actually updated, like she did like a sequel to Where Are the Children. And Where Are the Children was one of her first ones. So she literally went back to this world like recently. So it's going to be interesting. I'm probably going to read those first. Anyway, now we have other ones that I have descriptions for. Next we have The Night War by Kimberly Brubaker Bradley. I heard about this one from Krista from Books and Jams. I didn't know that she was having another book out. Sounds interesting. It's coming out on April 9th. We don't choose how we feel, but we choose how we act. It's 1942. German Nazis occupy much of France, and 12-year-old Miriam, who is Jewish, is not safe. With help and quick thinking, Miri is saved from the roundup that takes her entire Jewish neighborhood. She escapes Paris, landing in a small French village where the spires of the famous Chateau de Chinoco, I cannot speak French, rise high into the sky. Its bridge across the river share like a promise, a fairy tale. But Miri's life is no fairy tale. Her parents are gone, maybe alive, maybe not. Taken in at the boarding school near the chateau, pretending to be Catholic to escape Nazi capture, Miri is called upon one night to undertake a deadly task, one that spans the castle grounds, its bridge, and the very border to freedom. Here is her chance to escape, hopefully to find her parents. But will she take it? One thing is certain. The person Miri meets that night will save her life. And the person Miri becomes that night could save the lives of many more. Doesn't that sound good? Next, I have some middle grade March titles. I'm pretty sure I already talked about this one. Shooting Kabul. I first heard about it from Krista from Books and Jams. And I never read it. And then I reheard about it from Jen's book, Reading Life. In the summer of 2001, 12-year-old Fadi's parents make the difficult decision to illegally leave Afghanistan and move the family to the United States. When their underground transport arrives at the rendezvous point, chaos ensues and Fadi is left dragging his younger sister Miriam under the crush of people. But Miriam accidentally lets go of his hand and becomes lost in the crowd, just as Fadi is snatched up into the truck. With Taliban soldiers closing in, the truck speeds away, leaving Miriam behind. Adjusting to life in the United States isn't easy for Fadi's family, and as the events of September 11th unfold, the prospects of locating Miriam in a war-torn Afghanistan seem slim. When a photography competition with a grand prize trip to India is announced, Fadi sees his chance to return to Afghanistan and find his sister. But can one photo really bring Miriam home? I'm interested. Next we have Esperanza Rising by Pam Munoz Ryan. I also heard about this from Jen's Reading Life. She's a recent one that I subscribed to. I've heard about this book, but I never read it. Esperanza thought she'd always live with her family on their ranch in Mexico. She'd always have fancy dresses, a beautiful home, and servants. But a sudden tragedy forces Esperanza and Mama to flee to California during the Great Depression and to settle in a camp with Mexican farm workers. Esperanza isn't ready for the hard labor, financial struggles, or lack of acceptance she now faces. When their new life is threatened, Esperanza must find a way to rise above her difficult circumstances. Mama's life and her then depend on it. Mama's life and hers depend on it. Okay. Then we have Focus by Allison Gerber. Heard about this one from book lover Amanda. She's recommended it a lot of times. Clea never controls her thoughts. She knows she has to do her homework, but she gets distracted. She knows she can't just say whatever thought comes into her head, but sometimes she can't help herself. She knows she needs to focus, but how can she do that when the people around her are always chewing gum loudly or making other annoying noises? It's starting to be a problem, not just in school, but when Clea's playing chess or just hanging out with her best friend. Other kids are starting to notice. When Clea fails one too many tests, her parents take her to be tested, and she finds out that she has ADHD, which means her attention is all over the place instead of where it needs to be. Clea knows life can't continue the way it's been going. She's just not sure how you can fix a problem that's all in your head. But that's what she's going to have to do. Find a way to focus. Yikes. Next we have The Midnight Guardians by Ross Montgomery. I heard about this one from another recent booktuber I subscribed to. Well, I just subscribed to her yesterday because she was in Krista's middle grade March video where everybody gives like a middle grade March recommendation. Anyway, this is Spread Book Joy. I don't even know this woman's name, but I'll tag her anyway. Sometimes at the darkest hour, hope shines the brightest. When Cole's childhood imaginary friends come to life, he discovers a world where myths and legends are real. Accompanied by his guardians, a 6-foot tiger, a badger in a waistcoat, and a miniature knight, Cole must race to blitz-bombed London to save his sister. But there are darker forces at work even than the bombings. Soon Cole is pursued by the terrifying Midwinter King, who is determined to bring an eternal darkness down over everything. And apparently he has a friend, or he's going to have a friend who is Jewish, which I did not see in the description, but that's okay. Next we have The Penderwicks, a summer tale of 4 sisters, 2 rabbits, and a very interesting boy by Jean Birdsall. Yeah, that's pretty clear. It's going to be their quirky adventures. So I didn't really write a description for it. Thank God, I'm running out of voice. 2 more. All Her Fault by Andrea Mara. I heard about this one from Meredith from the Currently Reading podcast. One Missing Boy. Marissa Irvine arrives at 14 Tudor Grove expecting to pick up her young son, Milo, from his first play date with the boy at his new school. But the woman who answers the door isn't a mother she recognizes. She isn't the nanny. She doesn't have Milo. And so begins every parent's worst nightmare. 4 guilty women. As news of the disappearance filters through the quiet Dublin suburb and an unexpected suspect is named, whispers start to spread about the women most closely connected to the shocking event, because only one of them may have taken Milo, but they could all be blamed. That sounds really good. In a community full of secrets, who is really at fault? Honestly, I could see Chloe from Always Booked reading this one. Sounds kind of like her thing too. Anyway, next we have, or lastly, actually, I think this is the last one. Dad Camp by Evan S. Porter. Ooh, I forgot to write the release date. I am not okay this video. I think it's coming out in the summer. But I heard about it through Mia from Reading Through Life podcast. A heartwarming novel about a loving dad who drags his 11-year-old daughter to Father-Daughter Week at a remote summer camp, their last chance to bond before he loses her to teenage girlhood entirely. After his daughter Avery was born, John gave it all up. Hobbies, friends, a dream job, to be something, a super dad. Since then, he spent nearly every waking second with Avery, who is his absolute best bud. Or at least she was. When now 11-year-old Avery begins transforming into an eye-rolling zombie of a preteen who dreads spending time with him, a desperate John whisks her away for a week-long father-daughter retreat to get their relationship back on track before she starts middle school. But John's attempts to bond only seem to drive his daughter further away, and his instincts tell him Avery's hiding something more than just preteen angst. Even worse, the camp is far from the idyllic getaway he had in mind. John finds himself navigating a group of toxic dads that can't seem to get along, cringeworthy forced bonding activities, and a camp director that has it out for him. With camp and summer break slipping away fast, John's determined to conquer it all for a chance to become Avery's hero again. That one sounds really good. Like, you don't really hear about toxic mothers and, like, the insane things they do. It's kind of cool to get a twist on the dads. Like, I am really fascinated by this book. So, yeah. I also think that Chloe would like this one just because she likes the suburban drama. This is kind of like that, only it's not the moms, it's the dads. So, yeah. Anyway, those are the books that I added to Goodreads in February. I'm going to start my March list. Hopefully y'all have better organization. Things have just been really hectic for me health-wise. Anyway, please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll talk to you guys in my next video. Talk to you later. Bye.
Speech on. Stop recording video.